Well, here in the UK, the latest edition of Charlie Hebdo will be available, but not everywhere. W.H. Smith have said they won't be selling it, for example, because it's not a magazine they usually carry. But the latest issue is undoubtedly offensive to many Muslims, as earlier editions have been, and not just to violent Muslims either. In the magazine, there's an editorial, and it says the millions of people who proclaimed I am Charlie must also know that means I am secularism. It does seem there's quite a gulf between the secular view and the Muslim one, at least. Nabila Ramdani is a French Algerian, is a Muslim and is a journalist and joins us now. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Your reaction to the kind of this follow-up edition of Charlie Hebdo?
Well, I don't believe that the cartoon should have been published in the first place. I think it's a very blasphemous cover, and it designed to mock a world religion, Islam, at a very sensitive time. A Muslim police officer was buried, and yet the magazine decides to publish and indeed mock a revered religion in the most hurtful and indeed discriminatory manner. And I think the debate about this cartoon, the cartoons, has not gone away. This idea that people who objected to the cartoons in the past are somehow going to come to a truce and accept, you know, its vindictive and cruel pictures. And I think there's a time and place for all this as well. This idea that the publication was issued to take some sort of revenge on the terrorists is absolutely ludicrous. I think the police took care of that.
Let's go over to Christine Acron, who joins us online now from Paris. Is a very eminent journalist and commentator there. Christine Acron, what was your reaction when you saw particularly that front cover, the cartoon on the front cover?
I think it's a perfect front cover. It is true to what this particular magazine has been about for decades, and it is true to the memory of those 12 people who were murdered last Wednesday just because they wanted to express their views in a country which is a secular country. You know, they have been generations in this country fighting for this, not to have any church, any religion bother us with beliefs, except on a purely individual basis. So if someone is shocked by this cover, have that person not look at it and not buy the magazine. Nobody cares. It's her or his business.
Christine, thank you very much. Perfect sound. But we're losing. We don't have a picture of you. We just have a still. The picture's locked up. But let me get the reaction to that from you,
Yes,
Nabila.
I mean, it's interesting.
You don't have to look at it, and it is the way things are done in France, isn't it? I mean,
no, I think that's an absolute myth. And when Christine Acron says that's what the magazine stood for, it's very misleading indeed. Nobody had heard in the abroad about Charlie Hebdo before it published the deeply offensive cartoons in the wake of when the Danish publications published them. In France, a lot of people are extremely uncomfortable for what Charlie Hebdo stands for. The magazine wasn't selling. Nobody, you know, felt particularly thought that the magazine was particularly funny or indeed particularly satirical. It played in the hands of a few liberals who get something out of it, but not many people like that. And this idea that it stands for, you know, the great values of the French Republic is actually misleading.
But what is the correct reaction to it? You see, I mean, I can see that a lot of people may not like it, but isn't the deep fundamental value of France, more than many other values, that if you don't like it, you just put up with it?
Let me tell you what is the deep fundamental value of France. France is a massively restricted society. There are all sorts of legislations controlling, you know, stifling the expression of religious hatred, incitement to racial hatred, against anti-Semitism. And there are all sorts of legislation, you know, very restrictive privacy laws in France. So this idea that amongst all these legislations, somehow the French Republic can nobly uphold the value of insulting and humiliating Islam is absolutely absurd. And that's without even mentioning the double standard. You know, when a canal gesture, which is perceived as being anti-Semitic, is rightly, you know, condemned and indeed banned, why is a caricature of a prophet, which is perceived as deeply offensive, should, you know, the French Republic should defend that? In the same fashion, when you have have a British fashion designer who insults, who goes on the rant about anti-Semitism and is rightly punished by the law. Another French fashion designer is allowed to come up with the same discriminatory and indeed hateful views about black people.
Nabila?
People are upset about double standards.
I mean, it does seem that after the unity that was around over the weekend, there's certainly... We're not all in Europe aligned at the moment. Nabila, thank you very much, and I do apologise. Oh, I think we've got Christina Cron. No, we don't. I do apologise. I'm sorry we didn't get a reaction from Christine there.